Hello, everyone. This is Tuesday, January 29th, and this is the weekly meeting of Kubernetes Sig Docs. Hello.
Hello.
Let's start by introducing new folks. I see Alex Ball, who is here by invitation. Alex is considering, shall we say, becoming a member of Sig Docs, and he's here to just observe and say hello. So Alex, do you want to do like a quick intro?
Sure. Good morning and good evening, I imagine, in some parts of the world. I'm Alex. Thanks for inviting me, Zach. I appreciate it. I'm a technical writer. I've spent a long time in the cable TV industry, mostly the last way too many years. Looking forward to seeing how you all run stuff here.
Well, welcome.
Welcome.
Craig Peters, you may be like super familiar to everyone else, but I apologize. I don't recognize you. So hello, I'm Zach Corlison.
Hi, Zach. No, I don't know you. I don't think I know many of the rest of the folks on this call. I am joining kind of, I want to contribute. I also am trying to land a very significant project in Kubernetes overall, which is support for Windows containers in Kubernetes. And that, as you can imagine, requires a new node type to run Windows containers and has significant sort of UX implications. And so I'm in the process of trying to understand how Sig Docs works and how to best make sure that we do the right things in Docs to support that.
Oh, cool. Well,
you were at the meeting. You were at the meeting we had on conformance, right, in Seattle? No,
I was not.
Correct?
I look familiar because we worked together in OpenStack years ago.
Even that. Oh man, it's making my memory's horrible. That's outstanding.
No worries.
Let's see. Let's see, familiar faces. Dominic, welcome back. Sioko-san, welcome back.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to updates, reminders, and housekeeping. Sig Docs approver, excuse me. Sig Docs approvers, I put up the PR Wrangler schedule for Q1, Q2. If you look at that schedule and are less like, no, that's wrong. You have the power to switch out your schedule with someone else. So just take a look at that and just get an idea of when you are, and if you need to switch dates, let's make that happen. Let's see. So for the agenda, Steve, I have a note from Steve saying he'll be late to the meeting, but I imagine this is Steve's reminder to, at least partially. So just a reminder to take a look at the project, the repo project that Steve has set up for content that needs review, that we agreed met the priorities for Q1. Some folks have been grabbing PRs in that project and assigning themselves to it. That is awesome. Thank you very much. But it looks like there are still a couple of issues in that project that haven't been claimed yet. So if you're a new contributor, Craig, this might be a great place to at least take a look at those issues and decide if that's a place, if any of those are places where you want to dive in and take a look at the particular requirements and the particular technical knowledge required for any of those PRs. And if you see something you like, feel free to assign yourself to it or just to leave a comment on the issue. Cool. And if you have any questions about that, you can, have you joined Slack yet, Craig?
I'm on the Slack channel, yeah.
Awesome. Then you can feel free to reach out and grab one of us for help in Slack if you have any questions about that. Cool.
Thanks.
Out of curiosity, let's take a look at that project really quick. Yeah, it looks like we've got about three issues: top-level controllers, concept guide, deployment documentation. We need better, more accurate documentation for replica sets, and specifically naming in replica sets, and an update to the replica set concept topic. So if replica sets are interesting to you, dive in, please.
Was this for reviews or creation of content?
This is for both. I think there's probably a fair amount of review, but there's also some information that needs to be either hunted down or revised or phrased better. So there's it's not just like a copy edit task. I think there's some actual like content review and creation required.
So I think Steve was going to work with JD to work on those docs. So we're gonna, I think we have a meeting with him later today to kind of talk him through it before he starts work on it.
Andrew, do you mean the replica set stuff?
Yeah.
Because I think there's already a PR in flight. I saw Steve on it. I just happened to, I've been trying to get back into just, I know I've got a queue that I need to be looking at, and I just happened to notice that one yesterday or the day before. So
right, but that is the PR from JD, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I'm looking, okay. But I mean, what? I'm glad you jumped in. I happened to have seen that one, and I was going to point out it looks like maybe the issue needs to get assigned because it is actually in flight. It's not like waiting for somebody to claim it.
Okay.
And that's housekeeping, but we should maybe get that cleared up.
Yeah, we'll attach it to the issue because I think we were going to go over it to give them feedback directly.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, for the other issue that Steve had, we'll wait for him to show up and talk about that specific issue. But it looks like Steve also says we still need owners for top-level controllers, a top-level controllers concept guide, and an update deployment. Deployment concept topic. So I don't know. Is there? I'm really struggling with how to get folks assigned to these. Like, I feel like bringing them up and like surfacing visibility to these is really helpful on a weekly basis. But in terms of like tagging people, I'm sorry, Jennifer, go ahead.
No, sorry, you were talking about some of them, and I was just wondering whether if Andrew and Steve are meeting with JD to talk about replica sets, whether it would make sense to do a little bit more brainstorming around deployments at the same time, since they're so tight. Well, since replica sets are so tightly coupled to deployments.
Do you want us to ask JD if he'd be interested in writing that too? Because then, yeah, we could give him the download at the same time.
You could do that. I mean, I think it would benefit the replica sets content. I know Steve raised the issue. Well, there's a little bit of discussion in the PR already. And that's why I thought of it. Also because I don't want to be involved in the content. This just happens to be an area that I've banged my head against for a long time. Right? Because there's the whole replication controller replica set muddle that JD is already addressing. And so it seems like there's some tight coupling, so it might be worth at least discussing. I agree with Zach absolutely about the figuring out ways to surface these and get them assigned. But that just seemed like a start given the tight coupling, possibly. And if it doesn't work, if that's not something that JD's interested in, or if you guys have sort of sorted separating deployments and replica sets, then we can move to plan B, and I don't have a suggestion for that.
I think we also need to figure out kind of what are the impediments to people wanting to contribute. Like I know for myself, like bandwidth is a key one, because I have a lot of stuff going on right now, so I can't like take on additional like writing tasks. And I wonder if it's the same for everyone, or if there are also other issues
I know personally I would like to pick up some of this, but just with the release team, I'm pretty much at capacity. But there's things that I'm looking into and kind of deep diving into, which would be great. Maybe even not in scope for some of these articles that as you learn a lot about them, it'd be great to write, kind of a high level doc afterwards. So definitely looking to help out, but not this quarter.
Understood.
Yeah. So go ahead, Jennifer.
Nope, go.
For me, I've been lamenting the setup and the pick a right solution page for what, like a year. But I've also my instructions from my boss are to not get deeply involved in content. It seems his opinion is that my time is more valuable at a higher level. So my own capacity is restricted, sort of from on high. But I do want us to think about, so this dovetails nicely into sort of the next topic that we have on the agenda about mentorship. This is a great opportunity and sort of a necessary opportunity to think about how we are introing people into our pipeline. Because we get a lot of people who show up and express interest. People join our channel and say, I am interested in docs, I am interested in contributing, and we point them to the contribution guide, which is good, but we don't have like an active mentorship process. And that's rough for someone who is new, but maybe lacks even if somebody did come in with like really solid Git knowledge and even some awareness of like Prow, it's still a rough start in some ways to figure out how we've got docs organized, what's the best possible way to contribute, who to chase down for specific tech information. Like I think about, I still don't know, if when I look at a particular piece of functionality, it's not always immediately obvious to me, like which SIG is responsible for that feature development. So maybe providing helpful pieces like that, but also maybe taking time to not just have a PR wrangler schedule, but like a mentor schedule. And I don't want to sign us up preemptively for what's going to be what's going to require some really thoughtful and intentional work around mentorship. But I'm saying let's look down that road, because I think the lack of mentorship, I think the lack of sort of active presence and active help is a barrier to contributors. It's not because we don't want to help contributors, it's because we're just not set up to do it well. So that's what I see. Do other folks agree? Do you see completely different things? What do folks think about that? How do folks feel about that? About the idea of providing active mentorship to increase, to make it easier for new and first-time contributors?
I don't see how it could hurt. It'll take some time, but I don't see how it could hurt. I would certainly volunteer and help with that. If there's folks to be mentored, I'm happy to help. Is that you, Craig?
I'm saying I'm a happy mentoree.
All right, cool.
From the outside looking in, I'd say that sounds like a fantastic idea.
So going along that with the outside looking in viewpoint, do you have any suggestions, either Craig or Alex, of what you see blatantly missing or something that could be done better?
I wouldn't want to jump in and say anything's blatantly missing, because I haven't looked enough to know if something's missing or hidden, or I just haven't gotten there in my browsing yet. But just as somebody saying, I wonder if I can contribute here. I would love to see, right at the very top of contribution guidelines, or in Slack or something, as soon as you introduce yourself, in Slack, for example, as soon as you introduce yourself, you know, whoever is, you know, or whoever are the mentors on call that week, immediately just send someone a message and say, hey, welcome, thanks for joining us. You know, can I help you get started? What's your pressing need right now, or what are your burning questions, and just go from there. Not even a formalized process, just so much as saying, hey, there's a human, talk to me.
Thank you, Alex. Jared, you're looking pensive. Is this because of your thoughts?
No. Oh,
okay.
No. I'm all good. Yeah, no, I think, we've already chatted about this. I think this is great. We should do it.
So just speaking anecdotally, I know we've had I have messaged a couple of the new folks who have joined this week, and what I noticed is that basically all of their questions are answerable. They have been answered in the contribution guide, but having a human to say, hey, this is the contribution guide, and this is for the particular question that you ask, this is the specific section that you look at. Just having that human interaction seems to be really valuable. So I don't know. But what I'm hearing is that folks seem to think it's a good idea, or that folks want to think about it some more. So let's definitely revisit this next week. What's the date next week? What's our meeting date? Is it first, second, third, fourth? This is the 5th? I don't even know. What is a calendar? But next week. But in terms of like specific mentorship, so Jared, Andrew, myself, and Jennifer, as the chairs of Sig Docs, we have looked around, and the Sig Docs is in a really healthy place. But we've also realized, like, if one of us has to step away for whatever reason from being a chair, that's like a recipe for disaster. And we don't really have a good system, and by good I mean any system, in place to replace ourselves well. So what we are actively discussing right now as chairs is how best to mentor our own replacements. So what that looks like exactly yet is still in process, but I want to put it out there that if you are interested in being a chair, this is a great time to maybe like think about your interest. And like if that's something that you're interested in, come and talk to one of us. It's not an automatic commitment. Like if you talk to us, you're not like tagged by the National Wildlife Society, and you won't be like radio tracked or anything like that. Just like raise your own visibility so that we can like include you in the conversation. So obviously, to be a chair, you have to be an approver. But if you're not an approver yet and you're interested in what that path would look like, that's also a good chance to think about, well, what would the path from like new contributor to chair look like? So if you are already an approver and you are interested in being a chair, talk to either Jennifer, Andrew, myself, or Jared, or all four of us at once, if you think that would be helpful too. But yeah, if that's something that you're interested in, please let us know. Let's see. The next, Syoko-san, I'm still working on how to set up a site for the Korean dev branch. I will say that the easy part is like setting up a site is the easy part. I could do it like right now in less than 5 minutes. The challenging piece is figuring out admin permissions, because I know with with the Korean branch that you're always updating your development branch, and so figuring out admin permissions to let you continuously update that branch name is the hard piece. I don't know what that answer is. I was poking around on it a little bit earlier. There may not be a good answer, but I will look at that more this afternoon, and I will send you a message on Slack later this afternoon with what I find.
Okay, but it is not urgent issue for Korean translation team, so you can have time. And currently we moved from the DevKO 5 to DevKO 6. So if you can do that, you can apply to DevKO 6. Right now we are working on the KO 6 repository branch. Yes.
It strikes me like what may, because admin permissions are the blocker, it might work out to like have a different branch that's like a stable branch that is just like KO previews, and so when you can like keep iterating your development branch and like push, maybe figure out a way to push PRs to that preview branch so that the preview branch stays stable, like that branch name stays stable. I don't know. We'll look at it some more. I'm just trying to think, if we can't figure out admin permissions, then it may be worthwhile to try and figure out how to get like a stable branch name for localization previews.
Okay, I will also discuss it in Korean translation team meeting.
Okay. Right. Yeah, I'll take a look this afternoon and let you know what I find.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Cheers. Okay, that's the end of our agenda. Does anyone have anything else that they would like to discuss?
So if I'm in the process of trying to plan out landing something that's probably going to touch half the docs in some small way, with a little call out here or discussion there with respect to how nodes work, how taints work, I'm trying to figure out what is the best way to plan and organize the conceptual changes before making just a whole bunch of PRs. Is there any precedence or anything of this scale that has worked well, or things people would ask me to do, not do? I can't imagine, creating 20 massive PRs is what everybody would want. What's a good way to go about doing this kind of thing?
Is there a certain grouping where some of them all hang together and they're all kind of related, and those group could be in one PR? Because what's really hard is when you're like, well, I did 2 PRs, and you really need to either merge both of them or not both of them. That's always crazy. We've had people do that, and that drives me nuts. So,
I'm wondering, so excuse me for jumping in, Brad.
Please go ahead.
I'm wondering whether, Craig, it might be useful to even take a step back. I mean, I've noticed like the discussion around your CAP, because not all of my GitHub notification rules are working. So sometimes things still land in my inbox.
We got through your filter. All right.
And I can't help just even noticing the subject line before I delete it unread, right? So I've been trying not to think about it, but it's been there anyway. And one of the things I wonder whether it might not be useful to think about before you worry about like touching umpteen gajillion topics or files, or however you want to think about them, is how much do you really need to do that for the audience that you want to reach? And, how much would that audience be perhaps better served by a new set of related topics? Do you see what I'm saying? If that Windows user experience is distinct from other Kubernetes users, they're probably going to have like the folks you really want to reach are going to have an easier time getting the information they need if they're not having to look for little bits and pieces in other topics. I'm dealing in my day job, I'm dealing with exactly this issue right now, where there's bits and pieces of on-prem install content sprinkled throughout what's fundamentally a cloud product documentation. It's terrible. The on-prem stuff just needs to go away and live in its own home. And
Windows may be exactly the same, right?
I don't know whether it is, but I'm inviting, I haven't looked, I don't know sort of the details well enough. I'm just inviting you to consider the question. Right?
I think it's a very good question.
Make a case for touching lots of files before you do it, right?
Yeah.
Like a real solid UX case.
I think that makes sense. It does help a lot. And I think that it'll also help with content, because probably the right thing to do is actually basically to write a Windows container user guide to Kubernetes, and then decide whether, where and how it should be broken up, if at all, and what things have implications for the general audience. Nobody pretends that 50% of Kubernetes users are going to be Windows containers.
Right. But at the same time, we want to figure out the right relationship between these things. Yeah, it's not an easy problem. And since we've got a little bit of time, I'll share this with you. My first look at your outline for a Windows Node user guide was, oh wait, he's got to look at the current docs and figure out how to fit all this content into that, right? And then and now I'm saying to you, well, how about you consider like what was really your original proposal?
Right.
Because maybe that really is the right solution. And that, I think, I don't want to suggest that's something you have to go away and think about on your own either. Raji has offered to help. And I know something about her background at Oracle too. She's pretty solid on information architecture, and I think she might be a good resource for you, even if you've got time difference issues to deal with. And that said, if we can do it asynchronously, just because of my schedule, I'd be happy to sort of brainstorm or even take a half-hour meeting to talk through some of this stuff, because I think that would save everybody, including especially you as docs author, a lot of time down the road if we looked at some of the details a little more carefully.
Jen, thank you, Jen, for that. I think that's a very good perspective, and I think I'll take that as heavy guidance.
And like I said, I'm not throwing this all back on you, right? The rest of the SIG and those of us who are more sort of content oriented or more familiar with a repo can help too. But I'm just inviting that.
No, I think kind of the first thing that we do is probably write an outline. Here are, there's an outline in the cap, sure, but it's kind of like we need to hit all these topics. It's not really an outline of how the different users would come to the docs and what they would expect to see. That's my next task, is to think about who are the different stakeholders, what user persona are they, how would they be consuming it, what do they know now, what do they not know, how do they need to be guided through the experience.
Points, Craig. And I am so sorry.
But there's another one.
It's time to interrupt. Well, no, just I want to point out that these are all excellent questions, and I want to make sure that this discussion is surfaced visibly for other folks who are interested in it. And to get back to your original question, Craig, about what's the best way to do this, I would encourage you to open an issue and use that issue and the comments on that issue as the place to work through all of this stuff. So to let folks participate and read asynchronously. Because like everything that Jennifer has suggested, everything that you're talking about in response, this is super productive, and I would like for us to maintain it asynchronously as well, and let folks from other SIGs who also have who are stakeholders in all of this, give them the opportunity to participate as well. So open an issue, use comments, and that would be my strongest recommendation.
Okay, will do. And do you think it's fair game to use the existing Windows docs issue that's already in place and just sort of comment in a few folks who were, Jennifer and company, who were interested?
It's a good question. I don't know enough about the existing Windows issue to have a say on that, but
I'll paste it into the chat here, and we can.
I would recommend continuing this discussion in Slack. Continuing the
Okay, I'll do that.
Cool, thank you. Jim, you looked at one point like you wanted to jump in.
I was just going to say my selfish 2 cents on being the release lead is that having the one document prevents multiple merge conflicts. Not necessarily conflicts, but the more pieces we're all touching and the dev branches we merge master to there, you're introducing more potential problems, I guess. You're spanning a broader net, I guess. And then also, I think this was originally slated for 113 and missed it, and then it got pushed to 114 for the Windows Node release. So I think having that one centralized doc to drop with the 114 release would be a great initial goal. And then if you did have to do the small, minor nits here and there, working off a master after 114 after it's dropped might be a better way forward. But I can put that all in the issue, though.
Sounds great. It looks like there isn't an issue. There's a PR, and so I'll open an issue.
Great. Thank you, Craig. And that was a great point of discussion. Thank you for bringing it up. Right, Steve, welcome. Did you want to talk about that? So we talked in general, we talked about the get more people on this specific projects part of your comment. Do you want to talk about the specific issue that you raised?
I just wonder if anybody knows what it is. I got assigned to it, but I don't really understand what's going on. It looks like it's been closed, but does anybody know what is up with that issue?
Oh, I do. It's so we have a security contacts or security subcontacts file. So every repo in the Kubernetes org has to have one, and we have one for K website. And so we need to add one for Kubernetes incubator as well. So if I were going to make a recommendation, I would say copy the one from K website and add yourself to it.
And so I need to create this file for Kubernetes incubator. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Good enough. That's all I needed. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that you talked about getting owners on the issues. I think we're doing pretty well there. A lot of those have owners.
Yeah, it's coming along nicely. I think that's going to turn into, oh geez, my AirPods are about to die. So, and in this case, I'm going to call sort of a hasty last call. All right, that's a SIG meeting. Thanks, everyone. Have a good week. See you next week. Survive the cold. Don't get eaten by wolves.